Christmas time, so we are enjoying our holidays right now.
Yeah, yeah.
In Teenage, we don't have anything much right now going on. I mean, we have a bit relaxed,
Yeah.
so it's good. So eating a lot.
Hey, are you coming over next week with Rashmi?
No, I'm not coming
Yeah.
because I'm still on my probation. I just joined Teenage,
Oh, yeah.
so and she's going for I guess longer duration for 2-3 weeks. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's see.
It'd be good to
Let's see
see
in
you.
future.
Yeah. So Rashmi's coming over next week, Jeremy. We should go and have a lunch or something.
I've been in touch with her.
Yeah. Let's do a catch up. And I've also got a cough, so I'll try and be as quiet as I can, you guys. But yeah, it is 10 o'clock. We can always, people are still coming in actually. We can wait 1 more minute. How about that? And then we can make a start.
Okay.
Yeah, people seem to be coming in now. And I need to just quickly run out. Hold on, I'll be back.
So, how many people here are supervisors or freelancers? Is everybody animators or?
These guys knocked over my mic.
I am an animator right now. I'm working in VFX industry in Toronto.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Oh, I'll close that. But, alright. Let's, I say let's begin.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
did a quick survey. It sounds like most people are animators and aspiring supervisors.
Yep.
So not too many people with experience talking directly to clients and stuff. But so I'm going to be talking about both. And you know, the same theory applies. You know, I mean, animation it's a team sport. You can't work on animation on your own, really, unless you're doing a little test for yourself. But ultimately, it's always for somebody else. So that's why I feel communication is key to doing good work, and it's also key to getting good feedback. And you know, I mean, audiences, you're doing it for somebody else always. It's hardly ever you're doing animation just for yourself. Communication is also like it's a two-way street. So you expect your supervisor or your client to be able to give you good direction and good feedback, but sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes you'll get notes that won't make sense, and that is your supervisor's fault. But at the same time, if you want your work to look good, then you need to take responsibility for your side of the communication. So what I'm going to talk about today is how, first of all, that's why it's so important to be able to communicate well and to be able to get good feedback, because it's your demo reel at the end of the day. It's your shots, and whether or not your supervisor or your client is good at communicating their ideas, if you can figure out what they're thinking and figure out what they want to see in a shot, then your work may not get approved. Your client's going to get frustrated with you. Your supervisor may end up giving your shot to somebody else who they feel they can communicate with better, and ultimately you lose, even if it's not your fault. So like I said, communication is a two-way street, and if you can take responsibility for your side of the communication, that'll make your supervisor's job easier, and in the end your work will look better because you're hitting the notes sooner, and you're delivering something that your clients and supervisors are going to be happy with. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but I've kind of boiled this down to three different things that will help with miscommunication problems. So the first one would be, building trust with your supervisor or client. Taking the time to see the big picture, knowing what the whole film is about, knowing, reading the script, learning more about everything that goes on outside of your little shot, what's going on in the whole sequence, what's going on in the whole film. And lastly, doing your research. Doing your research into knowing what motivates your character, know if you're animating a creature, knowing what the creature's anatomy and physiology and psychology. But a combination of these three things can really help smooth out the whole communication process and help you understand the notes and help you understand what it is your client or your supervisor wants to see in your work. So the first one, I think this is probably the most crucial bit of communication, actually in all communication, whether it's with your partner or with your friends or with a client, is building trust. If you can build trust with your client or your supervisor or whoever, that makes everything so much easier, because too often people give the impression that they just don't want to do the note. They're getting frustrated with something, and maybe they have a bad attitude, or maybe they don't understand things, and it just, nobody wants to work with somebody they don't trust. If I, as a supervisor, know that you are doing everything you can to at least try and deliver good work, then I'm going to feel much more comfortable giving you feedback. I'm going to be willing to have a longer conversation with you and figure out how to solve the problem. If there isn't that level of trust, then it just makes everything so much more difficult, right? Can anybody think of examples of that, or has anybody been in a situation where they felt like their supervisor is giving them a hard time, or doesn't feel confident in their abilities? Anybody experience that? I personally have.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And okay, well, there's a number of ways you can build trust, but here's a few things that I think will, first of all, destroy any level of trust. Number one is, just having a bad attitude, making excuses as opposed to finding solutions. Not asking questions is a good way to make the supervisor feel like you're not interested in the shot. And not asking too many questions can be confused with questioning your client's direction, which doesn't come across. That's a kind of a fine line there. Forcing your own ideas. Too often animators start down a path. They think they've got some animation that looks really good, and maybe it doesn't work with the overall sequence, or maybe there's something wrong with it that the supervisor, or something that the supervisor just doesn't like or want to see in the sequence. And yet that animator gets locked into that form of thinking, locked into that idea, and they're, instead of hitting the new notes, they're still trying to keep their own idea. And it just, then at that point, as a supervisor, I'm like, okay, I feel like this person really doesn't want to follow my direction. They just want to do their own thing, and that's, you get all kinds of problems like that.
So on that note, Jeremy,
yeah.
I guess animators always feel like we're hired for our creative flair and creative ideas, and then I guess when sometimes animators will go into a shot and feel like now they're just being controlled like a puppet maybe, and having no creative freedom there, and that kind of is confusing for a lot of
No,
artists.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that I get confused with that sometimes, and yeah, that's a common thing to, and excuse me, that happens all the time, because we feel like, exactly, we're it's a creative industry. We have a talent for creating new performances. We have a talent for creating animation. And when somebody's telling us, yeah, move it 2 pixels to the right, and, move, I don't like this pose, change this pose, move the hips like this, as opposed to helping you develop your own ideas or develop your own creativity, it's frustrating. And hopefully involving, if you follow these principles that I'm talking about today, you'll avoid that. But ultimately, what we do is follow somebody else's direction, and then we have to work within the constraints of the movie, of the director, of the project, of whatever direction we are given. So it's not about, being a puppet, just being told, move this here, move this, that there. That happens when the communication process breaks down. I'm working with somebody and, they're just not following my direction, then that's where I get frustrated, and that's where, I get disappointed in myself as a supervisor, because I haven't been able to articulate the notes in a way that my animator understands. And yeah, and then it boils down to the situation where I'm just telling them, I'm basically animating through them, as opposed to allowing them to animate based on the direction of the show, Is that clear?
Yeah. So how many rounds of iterations of the same note do you give until you feel like I need to try a different approach? Or if they're not quite getting it, maybe you're thinking I need to try something else, or they're just, because they're not quite hitting it, do you then try something else, or do you get them to try something else?
It all depends. Every shot, every client is totally different. So I can't really say there's a golden rule for the number of versions I'm willing to put up with before that happens. Ultimately, the goal is to help an animator deliver their ideas within the structure of the sequence or the show or the shot, right? If somebody comes to me and says, okay, my idea for this is, he's going to land, jump, and then roll over. My personal direction will be, okay, well, the client asked for him to land, jump, and then take 2 steps. So we can't do the rollover, but what you have for the land and jump is good. We just need to put a little bit more weight into the landing. To do that, then we can do this other thing. If I get another version with a roll, then I start to lose trust that animator is feeling like, okay, he's trying to help me get what the client wants. This guy just wants to do what he wants. And now we're starting to fight over the thing, and gotcha. It just that's where the trust starts to break down. And at that point, I almost have to get in there and micromanage the artist, right? So I think that clarifies what I mean by that, or
it does, yeah. And actually, Francisco has a question on top of that. So okay. Have you ever opened a shot from another animator because they weren't hitting the notes?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I do that for a couple reasons. Sometimes it's to help me understand what it is the artist is struggling with. So, it could be like everything might be 90% there, but they're just not getting the last 10%. And maybe that is a technical reason. Sometimes people aren't using the rig in the way it should be. So there could be something like they've got an offset control that's sort of counter animating things and it's causing little pops. Or it could be that they're spending all their time animating to camera. So what I'm seeing in their play blast looks odd somehow, and then when I open it up and look at it in perspective, I've got a character who's supposed to be moving in a straight line, is actually in perspective, is kind of doing this, but in camera view it looks like you're going in a straight line. There's a couple of reasons, or maybe we're just out of time. That happens. Sometimes we're running out of time, and it's just like, I need to get this shot approved. I've given this person as many chances as I can possibly give them, but it's due tomorrow, and I have to make that deadline.
Yep. Yeah.
And does that answer your question, or?
I think it does. Yeah.
You're muted, so I'll just nod it.
Does, yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Good. So I mean, there's some other things that can destroy trust are not involving your supervisor or clients in the process, right? Not showing them, hiding your blocking passes, not asking questions or helping, trying to work out the ideas with your client or with your supervisor. I mean, are there any other things you guys have experienced? Any reasons why you have lost trust in the people you're working for? Yeah.
I've experienced something like when my supervisor is not clear about the idea for the shot particularly, so I'm going back and forth, I'm doing so many iterations on that shot.
Yeah.
Like if I'm showing him a version, okay, move him to the left. Okay, no, it's not working. Okay, do one thing, move him to the right. So it gets a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
That point, and then you go into that blockage, like you don't know what to do on the shot.
Yeah.
That's the situation. So I also think, I guess that's also the part of miscommunication, but also it's a part of miscommunication between supervisor and the director.
Yeah.
Because he's not clear about the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And it's, in a case like that too, it should be. Of course, there's times where a client will just say, "I don't like it, change it." And then you are just trying to throw different examples out there to see what sticks, right? But ultimately, the supervisor should be saying, okay, well, or at least give a reason why we're moving it to the left. Are we moving it to the left because they don't like the composition? Or are we moving it to the left so when he moves right, he can move faster? Something like that. And then if maybe the solution isn't, if it's to get him moving faster, maybe the solution isn't moving him to the left. It's just having the arm swing quicker or something. But when you're just being told, yeah, move it to one side. Okay, well, done. Now what? No, you don't like that? Okay, why don't you just come over here and do it yourself then? If it's something as simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's and that again, that's a good reason to ask. Okay, yeah, I'm happy to do that. Is there a reason for the question I might ask in that case? What's the reason for this? Like, is it to get offer up suggestions, or is like, okay, well, do you want to see him move faster, or do you want more room for that to happen on screen right, or what's the thinking behind this? Now, that can get you in trouble if you're asking too many questions, because if the person's just asking you to do stuff because they don't know themselves, you may start making them look stupid if you're asking them questions, smart questions like that. But use your own judgment as to when you're working with somebody. Sometimes you are going to get a director or a supervisor who really doesn't know what they're doing, and it's up to you to navigate that difficult situation. Kind of like how you did on Pacific Rim.
But on that, I had a very good supervisor.
Okay, all right.
There is a
All right,
question
so,
here. Oh,
any examples you got? Anything you guys have experienced where you were working with a supervisor or a client and you felt like they did trust you and certain things that you either went out of your way or you noticed they did, or any examples of situations you've been in where you felt like there was a lot of trust with the person you were working for?
I've been in a situation where I was given, I guess, direction and notes for a while for a shot, and it went in a positive direction. But then after a few weeks, I guess he didn't quite like what he saw in a few weeks, and then it suddenly just became like, this isn't what we need. What are you going to do now? So it kind of like suddenly just put on the spot, and after a few weeks of discussion and direction, and then suddenly it was just like, this isn't what we're looking for. It's like, well, then now what? So I guess, well, I didn't expect that, so I kind of just said, oh, just give me a few days and I'll sort it out. But now when I think about it, I'm like, but we spent a few weeks going in this direction and it was fine. So yeah.
And so there was no explanation as to why they didn't want to go in that direction.
Yeah, it was just like, this isn't what we're after. Pretty much, yeah. That was it. So that was very like, but then I guess I took it on myself to just try and just keep going with it or adjust it or fix it. So in the end it worked.
Was it a complete performance change, or was it something more than that?
From memory, it was kind of it was more like the choreography, I'd say. Yeah, it was kind of like just what the shot was doing, in a sense. So everything that was happening, or the action, just kind of changed. So that was just one instance. So and I remember that, and I was like, just put on the back foot. I was like, what the hell happened? So
that's tough.
And then I guess I lost a bit of trust there. I was like, oh well, is this gonna happen again?
Right,
so,
because you don't feel like he was being totally honest with you.
Yeah.
For the longest time, everything was all good. Everything the person was saying was really positive, and then to turn around like that without any explanation, kind of destroys everything that he was saying to you beforehand.
Because we're supposed to, I guess, supervisors in a sense are like, leading a team, and leading a team of followers and artists. So to not be able to like just throw it back, throw it back like that. It's like, oh, it's just kind of like, it doesn't, like, we're a bit lost then. So you should be helping, leading, I would have thought. And if there's a problem, just help solve it.
Yeah, exactly. Just say,
what are you going to do?
Something different.
Yeah, so like, what are you going to do now? Yeah. So that was a bit shit. But Yogesh has a question on that. So he's asking, can you go blind with the soup? So he means like if you just follow him, I guess if you just follow a supervisor or director blindly, will you? That's what you mean, right, Yogesh? Will you just go blind and not be able to see what the shot needs and just follow?
No. Again, this is where like there's this back and forth, right? Because you don't want a supervisor who's saying, okay, on frame 24, I want the guy's heel to hit first, and then frame 30, the left arm should start to swing forward, and then that's awful. You're just a robot at that point, and the supervisor should just be animating the shot themselves. As far as like following them blindly, like I think what you're asking is like,
should you ever question them?
You shouldn't question your supervisor's direction. You can ask questions, but as far as like second guessing them or you know, I mean, sometimes they're going to have bad direction. You know, that happens. But really, that's who you work for. So if the, you know, if the supervisor is telling you the character has to go from left to right, yeah, that's what you're going to make him do. If you know that the character should actually be going from right to left, yeah, you might want to bring that up and say, hey, I noticed in the edit that this direction you gave me is going to be out of continuity. You can bring that kind of thing up. If they say, no, I said left to right, not right to left, then yes, of course, that's what you should do. And then when they put the edit together, you might be proven right. But until that happens, no, you're that's who you work for, right? That's who you're getting paid to follow their direction. If you don't want to follow somebody's direction, then you should be making your own stuff.
Brenda asked, what can we do if we understand something from our supervisor and a different idea in our lead? So I'm guessing if our supervisor and lead have different direction.
I've been in situations like this. That's a tough one to be in. I mean, ultimately, the supervisor is who's in charge. There's a couple different ways to deal with this. I don't know. That's a really tough one because I worked on a show where we had the exact same problem, and the lead was giving different notes than the supervisor, and ultimately everybody just stopped listening to the lead. You know, you can. I'll let you figure that one out when the time comes.
So would you just
deal with it?
Would you
Either
bypass the lead?
Yeah, or you just do what your lead tells you, and then they'll ultimately get in trouble because the supervisor's gonna say, "Why are you doing? This isn't what I asked for, right?" Same as if a supervisor who isn't doing what the client asked for is all there. I mean, yeah, that's just a bad situation to be in. Yeah, Menard.
Yeah, I've been into that same situation over here on my last project. So what I did when actually the lead and the supervisor, they had a very good communication. So most of the time they were aligned on the corrections part, but in few shots they were giving some different notes. I told them, okay, I told my lead, okay, there is this contradiction happening with your notes and the supervisor. So can we go to the supervisor and get the clear idea, and then all three of us are on the same page?
Yeah.
Because we can't avoid that at that position of leads supervision between your supervisor, because for the quality control, what these guys, they have set it up.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, so I mean, you can do that stuff. Like you can go to the supervisor with your lead and get the clear idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sometimes-
that is probably
yeah.
the best way to do it. And if you're in an ideal situation where your lead and your supervisor are getting along, then fantastic. If it's a situation like the one I was in where there was some kind of rivalry between the lead and the supervisor, it's just a bad place to be in. And you know, I don't think there's an easy way out of that one.
You just have to work then, I guess.
But
You don't
yeah,
have any choice.
I think actually, you know, thinking back, I probably should have done what you did and sort of tried to get the two of them together to work out the fact that they're not getting along. But that's a tricky one.
Mm. Pierre was saying he's had an issue another level up where it's supervisor and director, like miscommunication or different ideas. So that'd be hard to bypass the soup, obviously. But yeah, I guess get them together as well if you can somehow and discuss it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's hard to get.
Directors usually outside. I mean, unless you're working on an animated film at DreamWorks or something, the director's never in house if you're doing VFX. So you most of the time you never even meet that person.
Yeah. It's true. And Ari has a question. Sometimes I understand we do have have to go beyond supervisor's range. I worked with a 2D supervisor where stylistically I did his order, created substitutes, and he applied it, but I was superior to understand your suggestions, please. So I guess you were saying you worked with a 2D supervisor and he liked it and created different versions, and he also loved it, but the supervisor said not to do that. So he's asking suggestions on that. So I guess it's pretty much what you had just explained, where a client and supervisor has different ideas, different directions, and you pretty much want, again, if you can, to get them together to discuss it and get on the same page. But
yeah, you know, there's all kinds of different situations where you know, you're dealing with human beings, right? We're dealing with things that are subjective. Animation isn't like engineering, you know, it's not physics, where either you got the math right or it's wrong. It's animation could be wrong and right at the exact same time. It's not an easy one to you know, there's no way to really verify what's good animation or not. You know, you look at like a movie like Isle of Dogs or Fantastic Mr. Fox, which technically has bad animation in it, but they're great films to watch. And those I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're stop motion films by Wes Anderson, where the direction was, no, make the animation look bad. Unlike what you see at Leica, where the animation is nice and smooth. They wanted like a sort of handmade quality to it, so they would intentionally introduce glitches and stuff to it, right? So in that case, technically bad notes were good notes.
yeah, right.
So yeah, it's every show is going to be different, and every client's going to be different. Of course, you know, there's personalities and personal issues involved as well. So, you know, that's part of building trust too. If your supervisor has some kind of insecurity, you know, and maybe they feel like you're making them look bad by doing a good job or by shining too bright, sometimes that can be part of it as well. I you know, everybody's different, right? But what you have to always keep in mind, and what will get you through any kind of problems, is the focus on getting your shots approved and delivering the best you can within the direction you're given, within the timelines, within the film you're working on. If you get too hung up on, you know, getting too frustrated with countless notes, or a supervisor who doesn't know what they're doing, or you know, these kind of petty personal issues, then your life's going to be very difficult. So, but let's focus on my first point here, which is building trust. And actually, what I was talking about earlier too, about good animation isn't always. Well, each project is different, right? So, like the last project I worked on was this a bunch of animation for a museum, and it had this Tyrannosaurus Rex in it, and we were working with paleontologists, so not animators, and you know, we looked at a lot of Jurassic Park reference, and I worked on Jurassic World, and we were working with this paleontologist who hated those movies. Because he felt they didn't portray the dinosaurs accurately, and he had some good points. You know, he would say, you know, if you watch an elephant, you know, it's a big heavy animal, and his legs are always straight. And you look at like the dinosaurs in Jurassic World, they're always walking around with their knees bent, and they don't. Arguably, they don't look like they're supporting their weight. So he wanted them to be very stiff and having very straight legs, and you know, kind of the opposite of everything we learn in animation. We want to create nice, smooth animation with lots of overlap, and typically you know, a lot of museums and you know, Discovery Channel shows and stuff, they don't really have the budget for high quality animation, so they get sort of novice animators working on them who are doing very cartoony animation with lots and lots of overlap. So that's what he was used to seeing in the projects he'd worked on in the past. So in order to build trust with this paleontologist, I created my first animation I gave to him. It's not very good, but it was exactly what his notes were, which was to make it the stiffest looking dinosaur on Earth. So I had this dinosaur walking around with legs that were really stiff. You know, there wasn't a lot of overlap in the head,
Show us.
the body. It was exactly what he wanted. And at that point, he's like, "Oh, okay, these guys are listening to me. They're doing what I want. You know, they get it. They understand that you know, these dinosaurs." And you know, he does have a point. He knows his subject, but I communicated that to him with my first test. And then once we got into doing the actual shots, then we started to introduce a little bit more overlap and make them, you know, just started to add the nuances that we wanted to see in it as well. So, like I said, the first stage there was building that level of trust with these guys, so that they'd be happy and they'd be confident that they could leave us alone. And the rest of the project went relatively smoothly. You know, he gave us good feedback that helped us, you know, get the scientific accuracy of the dinosaur movement, but you know, didn't micromanage us or wasn't coming back with countless notes on things that would have just slowed us down from delivering good work. So does that make sense? You know, like I said, building trust is like the first first stage of this whole thing, and the whole communication process revolves around that.
Yeah, I like that example actually. Like giving the client what they ask for first, and then showing them what they're asking for, and it's not going to be as nice as they think it is in their head. But at least now there's trust.
Or at least they know that like everything you do beyond that is going to be based on their idea.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So you know, you've taken their idea, and then you're just going to level it up, as opposed to, you know, well, here's your idea, but mine's better, and we're going to do variations of mine. Maybe we'll sprinkle in a little bit of your idea into my idea. It's like, no, we're going to take their idea and make it better, as opposed to the other.
Yep.
Isn't that what an animator should exactly be, though?
Well, you got here late, Peter. That's
I got it, but it's funny. But I know from your style of leading as well, you give your animators a lot of trust as well in the beginning. But I also find, now that I'm leading myself, a lot of animators off the bat tend to not give me what I need them to give me. So it's like a two-way street, right?
Were you secretly listening in at the beginning of this thing?
I was, yeah.
Stealthy.
No, I think it's a really good thing, because I've had really good scenarios and I've had really bad scenarios. And I'm not going to name the studio, but before I went to work with you at Image Engine, you know, it was like conflict with leads and soups and all this stuff. Got to a point where I was like, well, I don't know if I want to be in the industry, because it doesn't seem to matter what I do. So those were the bad things. But the other thing is that I've learned anyways, like, I have to give, whether somebody is wrong or right, whether my lead is wrong or right, whether my soup or whether the director, as an animator, if you don't start by giving them what they ask for, it's you're down the wrong road like instantly.
Yeah, because you've broken that level of trust. You know, it's like, okay, I can't trust this guy to follow my direction. You know, even it's a subconscious thing. It's not. It just feels like every time I work with Pierre, he's gonna run off in his own direction here. So I can't. You know, even though you probably in your mind have the best interest in, you know, you're trying to do. You try to do your best work. You're trying to impress the person by doing something better than someone else. If you don't. If that initial moment of trust isn't there, then things can go downhill.
So my question based on that is like, how do you sort of deal with that, and how do you get that animator to come on board with you?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, like, everybody's different, you know. I try. First of all, I try and have an open mind too. I'll try and look at the person and hope for the best. So even if somebody has done something that I wasn't asking for, I will try and assume that they did that for a good reason and try and figure out a way to work with that. And if it doesn't work with the sequence, if it's totally wrong, then at that point I can say, well, look, looks good, but you've wasted a couple days here because doesn't work with the whole sequence. We have to have this and this happen in order for the whole sequence and explain it from there. I've worked with other people who just get frustrated and take the shot away, or you know, there's a number of different, and then of course there are people who are just difficult, who don't want to follow direction, who have a bad attitude, and if you're in charge, you have to deal with those people in a way that's firm and fair. You know, I mean, there's no reason to continue working with somebody who's got a bad attitude when there's plenty of people who have a good attitude, and you know, it's the overall show that's important. As a supervisor, you're focused on not just that one person's shot. You know, this whole sequence you're working on, what the director wants, how your sequence fits into the overall show. There's not much room for prima donnas who just want to go do their own thing. So when that happens, you have to figure out a way to deal with that. And maybe that's put in the one shots they can't screw up, you know. Some of the easier work that is just, or some of the stuff that doesn't really matter if they do their own thing or whatever, you know, the simple shots that, you know. So cool. Do you have a magic bullet for dealing with things like that?
No, I don't. No. It depends. It depends greatly, but it's like the one thing I found when I first started doing lead was everybody is totally different, and usually in ways I never imagined it, because as an animator it might sound weird, but I was just focusing on being an animator for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and someone once told me, who had sort of put me in a lead position. He said, you can't look at everybody through your own eyes. Like nobody is. Yeah. You can't compare your skill level to other animators. You can't. You know, and it's a team, and you have different. It's skill levels, different this, different that, and that was a pretty good eye opener for me, because when you first get the lead, you know, you're ambitious, so you're like, I want to, you know, but it's almost like that's not what you want. That's not going to help anybody, right? It's like my own personal ambition. I found I need to tailor it, custom made to every individual I work with, basically.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's good to be ambitious, but what your mark may be way over what you're expecting of somebody. Maybe maybe you can only get that person to here, and maybe that's a huge amount for them, but for you it's just a baseline, right? So yeah, like I said, it's everybody has their own perspective on things, and it's important to try and see things through their eyes, not always your own. I think I think that brings us to the next point I have, which is as a supervisor, and see things from your supervisor or your director's perspective, right? They have to look at the big picture. So if you're an animator, sure, you don't have to worry about what happens at the end of the movie, but technically you should, because those are the problems the supervisor's trying to work out. They have to figure out how the sequence fits into the overall film. And if you're only focused on your little 30-second clip, you might be making decisions that don't work with the rest of the sequence. You could be making a beautiful piece of animation that just has too much energy for the rest of the sequence. Maybe your shot should just be something very slow and subtle, yet you've created something over the top, and when you watch it as a part of the whole sequence, it just stands out and looks weird. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people get really frustrated by this sort of thing, because they put all this time and effort into making a shot that looks fantastic on its own, but just looks weird in the overall sequence. And when they're told to tone it down or to change it or something, they feel like, well, this animation is great. Everybody loves my animation. Why are you telling me to tone it down? And they're not thinking about how it fits into the whole thing. Deadlines are a part of seeing the big picture. If you're getting frustrated because a shot is you're not given enough time to work on a shot, well, maybe the reason for that is because your soup wants you to put more time into a more important shot that he's going to assign to you later. There's and this goes back to what you're talking about, Pierre, is seeing things from your supervisor's perspective, because they've got 100 other problems to solve. I think on Ant-Man we had 500 shots. So I'm thinking about filing 500 different shots. And damn. I'm working with people who are only focused on one shot or 5 shots. And, they're not really seeing things from my perspective, which is like, okay, well, I'd love to spend my whole day with this one person, helping them refine their shot. Or I'd love to, help them develop their idea here, but I maybe just don't have the time to dedicate to that one person or solve this one problem. So as an artist, as an animator, you need to be thinking about the whole picture, so that you're making the life easy of your supervisor, who's in turn going to give you what you need to get your job done. I think and there's also, like, from a creative perspective too, if you understand the overall production and how the whole thing works, you're going to be able to deliver a better performance. So back to this dinosaur example, this dinosaur project we just worked on. This was kind of a fun project. It was really unique in the way that it wasn't like your typical film, right? There was this exhibit with the actual skeleton of a dinosaur, and then there's videos that play throughout the exhibit. And I knew all about the thing. I knew before it was going to be built. I learned all about the fossil itself and the stuff they learned from it, and what audiences are going to be learning about it when they go to the thing. And one of the things that you learn when you go to the exhibit is this dinosaur, this T-Rex, has scarring on its lower jaw from another T-Rex. So scientists have found that, like, it's got these bite marks in the fossil and they know for a fact that these were caused by another T-Rex. They can put T-Rex teeth into the puncture marks into the jaw, and they know, as far as they know, it was caused by another T-Rex. So that was a great piece of information to learn, because because I knew that audiences would know this as well, I could incorporate that detail into the animation that you see at the end of the exhibit. You know, even though I'm not a paleontologist, I'm not, you know, I should, technically you'd think I would just focus on my part of the exhibit, which would be some animation at the end. But knowing the bigger picture, I could take that and an audience would say, oh, that's where that dinosaur got her bite mark, right? And I got to imagine that and figure out how to incorporate that little detail into a piece of animation. And when I showed it to the scientists and the crew and stuff, they were all really happy about that, because they knew I took the time to understand the bigger picture, and it was really cool for them to sort of see what, you know, their discovery brought to life as well. So, you know, knowing the big picture is definitely going to help you with communication, because you're going to be able to talk to your supervisor or your clients in a way that they understand, because they are more thinking about the big picture. They're not necessarily focused on the nuances of your animation. You're going to be able to add more ideas to your shots that are going to help with the overall film. And yeah, I think it was kind of fun. This is a way that we can add more of our creativity, as opposed to just following, you know, note for note for note. You know, in this way you could add stuff that your clients or your supervisor is going to want to see, as opposed to just adding something which you think looks interesting or you think it looks cool. You know, you can add something that enhances the film or enhances the production. So. Any questions on that one or comments?
Well, there is I'll read you a question from Mario. Let's say the trust is broken in one circumstance. What tips do you think animators or soups can do to rebuild that trust?
Well, you know, sometimes it all depends on the situation and how that trust is broken. But you know, having a good conversation is a good place to start. And then you know, going back and just showing your supervisor, like, you know, the next time they do give you a note, you follow it to a T. You prove to them that you know, you're doing everything you can to show to be trustworthy. You know, I think that example I gave of the stiff walk cycle was a good one, because in that case I didn't go out of my way to impress them with great animation. I just went out of my way to make sure I got a version that was exactly what this paleontologist wanted. You know, and then at that point, like I said, there was no question. I could have said anything up until that point, but when I showed him exactly what he wanted, then it was like, okay, all right, I can leave it in his hands. He's gonna do things the way I've asked it. He's listened to me. He's shown that he's got my best interests at heart.
And I have a question from Aloki. In a show where we have to go through filters of a lead, and the lead's notes aren't detailed enough, he or she says it's good enough, but when we get in front of the soup gives tons of notes. When something like this happens, a bit often I lose trust in the lead's knowledge and start showing other senior animators to get notes. What suggestions would you give on this? I guess you touched on it earlier as well.
Yeah, but I think in that situation, I think you're doing the right thing. If you can't get the right feedback from your lead, you know, I would just make sure that those people who are giving you other notes are at least helping you hit that direction you're getting from your lead, or maybe they have a better understanding what your supervisor wants, or or what your lead wants. The only problem with getting notes from other colleagues is they may take you off course, or they may have their own ideas and stuff. So always be wary when somebody gives you notes that you should preface those notes with, this is what my lead asked for, how do I get that? As opposed to, well, what can I do to make my animation better? Because you can go in any direction at that point, right? So as long as you're always trying to achieve a certain goal, then follow those notes. But if you're getting all kinds of different directions and stuff, it can make your animation look worse.
And Francisco asks, have you ever been in a situation where you had to let go of an animator that you didn't want to let go
of? No, I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, I've definitely been in situations where there was a breakdown in communication, and and those are unfortunate, and you just learn from it. You look at it and say, well, what can I have done differently next time? Or what can I do differently next time? What went wrong here, and why did this situation not turn out the way I wanted to? There are times where you overestimate a person's abilities, and you give them a shot they're not qualified to take on, and or sometimes people just don't. People are good at certain things, and then somebody who may be a great animator may be terrible at creating walk cycles. I've seen stuff like that happen. Or somebody who's really fast and can create great action isn't very good at doing subtle acting. Everybody. So that can be the supervisor's fault, where they've assigned the wrong shots to people. Or they've assigned too much work to a person, or mistakes happen at both ends. So I've never fired anybody, but definitely, I've had my share of miscommunication, and made plenty of mistakes as a supervisor and a lead, and it's just a part of life. So.
Yeah. And a question here from Yogesh: what do you expect from an animator in terms of quality and idea? Do you want to see quality in the first pass, or just an idea?
Well, no, I think it's an idea is probably best. As far as quality goes, like, if you only have 2 days to figure out a blocking pass, what kind of quality can I expect? If you had 2 weeks to do it, well, yeah, sure, I'll expect like something that's close to final animation. But a good supervisor should know, how much time was spent on a shot, and first of all, the level of the artist doing it. Excuse me, and the amount of time put into it, and then base a decision on that, as opposed to just expecting beautiful, perfect animation every time. I mean, that's a little bit unreasonable. And you should also, when you present your work, you should be able to describe what you're trying to go for. So if it's a blocking pass, and you present it and just say, here it is, and as a supervisor, I can't really tell what you're trying to do there. That could make things difficult. But if you say, okay, here's my blocking pass, with this shot, I was really trying to get this emotion across, or I really wanted to show this point of action. What do you think? Then as a supervisor, I can come back to you and say, okay, well, if you're trying to do that, then let's do this, this, and this in the next round of animation. Or if you're trying to do that, unfortunately, that's really not going to work with the sequence. So we can take this idea and do these changes to make it work with the overall show. Does that answer your question?
I think that's pretty good. And Bruce asked, how long does it take for you to discover these qualities from animators? How do you usually do?
I don't know. I don't think that's there's no real science to that question. I think everybody's developing as we go, as the show progresses, as our careers progress, where each of us hopefully are getting better at what we do. So, at the beginning of a show, somebody's skill, somebody's communication abilities may be at one level, and it may be at a better level by the end of it. That's also like my relationship with that person, right? My level of trust with their abilities and my perception of them is going to change over the course of the show. So, I may have a good understanding of them within the first daily session. It may take by the end of the show for me to really know what that person's capable of. But I think your goal as an animator working for somebody else should be to try and build that trust and try and build that relationship in a way that you guys can have a good sense of communication, and you guys can discuss ideas in a way that will give you the kind of feedback you need to deliver your best work. I would instead of trying to figure that out as an animator, I would be trying to achieve that.
Yeah. It's a good one. And Alicia here. G'day, Alicia. As a junior in the industry, Soups might not know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Is there any way you can tell through animation what you would like to work on in the future? Example, creature character animation within the shots that are assigned to you, if that makes sense.
Well, that's the thing. Like, nobody.
Yeah.
I can't tell what somebody's good at until I see it.
Yeah.
So what happens is, a lot of people who fresh out of school, most of the shows that juniors, at least for me, the first shows I started working on were really cartoony shows that didn't have a good sense of weight, and it's just more about character acting and hitting the poses. And it wasn't till I don't know what gave me my first shot at doing creature work, which is kind of the only thing I really specialize in now. But it was a fluke that I got working on creature shows, and I think if you're a junior and there's specific shots you want to work on, or maybe you just want to experiment and see what you're good at, and you want a chance and stuff, ask. This is what the talk is all about, is communication. So if your supervisor keeps assigning you character shots and you really want to be doing creature stuff, ask for it. Say, hey, look, and do your character shots as best you can, but then turn to them and say, look, I've done all these great character shots. I'd really like a chance to do some creature stuff. Can you assign me a couple of these shots every once in a while? If the opportunity is there, any reasonable supervisor will give you that chance. But too often people don't ask. Too often people think, oh, well, maybe they don't think I'm good. They'll jump to their own conclusions as opposed to just asking. And what you have to keep in mind is that your supervisor is focused on 20, 30, 500 shots and not your problems. As bad as that sounds, that's the case. So if you really want that chance, then go ahead and ask for it. There's nothing bad can happen by asking. There's an old expression: if you don't ask, you don't get. It's a simple fact, right?
Because a lot of times it would just be assigned due to whoever's free and available at the time and what shots come in, right? So if you ask, then there's a good chance you get put on the radar, and then you get given a shot if you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I'd love to assume everybody's good at this, or maybe your supervisor's just assuming well, I've given them all these animation character shots. They haven't complained. They're good at them.
It's true.
I need to get my show done.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go out of my way to, why if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? If everything's good with these character shots, let's keep giving them the character shots as opposed to taking a risk on giving a person a creature shot, especially if they haven't even asked for it.
What about, would it make you a better sup if you asked your animators what they want?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And I try to do that. But again, as a supervisor, my goal is the big picture. That's what I'm focused on. And to be a good supervisor, I have to make sure that the whole sequence is good. So by just giving everybody the shots they want, maybe I just because somebody wants a shot doesn't mean they're going to be good at it. And I have to take that into account, right? I can't be taking risks all the time on just giving people the great shots when it's not always going to work out that way.
Yeah, and that's where the previous trust built with some other animator is there, and you give them the shot that you need because you can trust them. So yeah, good stuff. If anyone else has any more questions, feel free to jump on the webcam or type it out. I'll read it for you. Anybody? Do you have any more of your presentation there, Jeremy, or you at the end?
No, I think that covers what I'm talking about for. I mean, an example of another example of what I guess I mean by this is, we had a production here where, it had required a little bit of animation, but the overall sequence was more about the effects. So we had these characters who had all this like smoke and fire coming off of them, but they also needed some basic animation, like sort of digital makeup kind of stuff. Right? And we really wanted to make sure that our animation looked good, and we were spending a little bit of extra time on it. And then when we saw the final sequence, it was all covered up with smoke and fire anyways. So all that time we put into it was wasted, right? Because it didn't take the time to see the overall picture. So that's what I mean by, just take the time to see the big picture. We would have wasted less time, and we would have got the project done quicker had we done that. So, that's usually your supervisor's perspective, but also like the animators working with, we're getting a little frustrated because I was like, hey, come on, hurry up, let's get this done as quickly as possible. It's not going to matter too much. And they were taking that a little bit personally, when the reality is it was all covered in smoke and fire anyways. It wasn't about the animation in that shot, it was about the effects. You always deliver your best work, you always try and go above and beyond, but at this point, the difference between here and here was a waste of time. If we had just done it to this level, everybody would have been happy, and it would have served its purpose. So those are things to think about too when you're working on something. How does your animation fit into the big picture? And that way, you'll also be able to communicate with your supervisor better too, because they're thinking about the overall sequence. So yeah, I think that covers that item. The last one for me, and I think this helps a lot with communication, especially when dealing with clients or people who aren't necessarily they're not animation savvy, they're not effects savvy. So, directors and stuff who may not understand the nuances of animation, or maybe a VFX supervisor who doesn't necessarily understand, the subtleties of animation, who may give you a note like, oh, well, I don't know, there's something looks weird about this. You get a bad note like that, it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do with that? Move your character to the left. Like, what? Why? But if you do your research and you understand your creature, or you understand your character's motivations, it'll make interpretation of those notes a lot easier. So a couple of years ago, I worked on a show that had an alligator, and I spent, I don't know, 2 weeks researching alligators before I worked on the show. I put together a huge document for my team that had every sort of relevant piece of information I could find on alligators. I emailed zoologists who taught me about how they move, how they walk. They even sent me videos of some nut in Alabama somewhere put motion capture markers on an alligator, and I could actually see. And then they using that info, they actually had a 3D skeleton of a alligator that was walking around, so you could see its gait and everything else. So doing that research gave me all this information and gave me such a clear understanding of how alligators moved that when I was working on the show, like, it was easy to communicate with the director. It was easy for me to understand how this character moved and how I could deliver the performance they wanted while still making it look realistic. And also, when I saw something that didn't look right, I could tell right away that, okay, well, yeah, what's happened here is they don't technically move their body in that way, or the way to get more power out of this shot is, alligators use their tails a lot. They use their tails to propel themselves. So we can get this thing moving really quickly, even though it has these clumsy arms. We can get the creature moving really quickly by getting all the power coming through its tail, right? So there was, without getting too involved in the details of alligator movement, what I can say is that having that understanding of that specific animal, we could easily, without copying reference. You look at reference all the time, but without just straight up one pixel per pixel rotoscoping the animation, we could easily come up with performances that work with the script. And to top it off, the script had things in it that alligators don't do. Alligators just sit there and wait for something to walk into its mouth. They don't chase people down. And this movie was about this alligator who was chasing these people down, and that's just technically not what that creature would do. But we had to make it look like it was a real thing. So doing the research, there were times where it also made it easier for me to answer questions. So when the supervisor or VFX supervisor or a client was asking, well, why did you make it do this? Right away, I had an answer that was the honest truth. It was, according to this research, this is why they move like this, or this is why I chose to do this. And after a while, that kind of expert knowledge I had, they started asking me for advice as opposed to just telling me what to do. So I think doing the research is definitely going to make it easier for you to interpret direction, especially when that direction may not be something as simple as add some more ease in or something animation related. It could be more about the performance. And it's also going to make it easier for you to communicate ideas with your client. You can say, well, I chose to do this because typically, zebras, or if it's a zebra you're animating, you can say, well, zebras are herd animals, so I wanted to make this guy, at this point he was nervous because he's away from the rest of the herd. Maybe that's not the best example, but you can use real world examples, and if you know your subject well, then you can explain yourself in a way that's going to make sense, as opposed to just talking based on animation.
Yeah. Yogesh asked, so what would you suggest? How can we push our animation? You mean your shot? I guess that's kind of broad, but you kind of covered a few things, just like how to push your animation in terms of like what, making it believable or quality or how it looks. I guess, Jeremy went over doing research and basing it on real life. I guess you have to narrow down that question as well, because you could be looking at a shot and it could just be blocking, so it might actually need more animation principles applied to it. So and Bruce,
I think every client, every supervisor wants you to push your shot. Everybody wants it to look its best, but it has to look its best within the context of the overall production. So that may be making your shot more subtle by toning down the animation in a way that really conveys the emotion of the shot. It may be looking for more, adding more animal behavior. Adding something that makes your alligator look more menacing in a way that alligators behave, not just putting angry eyes on it or something. That's a broad question, but I think if you go back to you focus on these last 2 points, which is doing your research and looking at the overall picture, then you'll know what area of that shot that you can push it in, whether it's making it enhancing the overall sequence, or adding more of that animal behavior, or whatever the nuances are in the character that it needs to add.
And Bruce asks, how do you see animators coming from different industries? When someone is moving from games to VFX, or from VFX to feature animation studios, how do you see animation overall?
I think too often animators get typecast. Somebody who only does cartoony stuff may never get a chance to do creatures, and vice versa. And there's good reasons for that. In cartoony, like feature animation stuff, the focus is less on weight and body mechanics sometimes, especially for TV series, kids TV series and stuff. It's more about hitting funny poses as opposed to really getting the subtleties and the weight timing of that correct. But I don't, if somebody has a demo reel that's 75% cartoons, and then they have 25%, or even if within that cartoony stuff there's some good action sequences, and there's shots that give me the indication that they can do creature work, I wouldn't say that I wouldn't write them off. But the thing is like, as a soup, I have to focus on getting the show done. So I'm gonna, if there's 2 candidates and one has lots of cartoony stuff and a little bit of creature stuff, and the other person has lots of creature stuff and little or no cartoony stuff, and my show is all creatures, who am I gonna pick, right? I have to get the show done. I'm gonna pick the person with the creature work, even though that other person may have potential. So, there's always going to be a certain level of bias towards the person who is better suited to the job. I mean, that's just how the world works. But it shouldn't totally stop you from making a career change or If you want to get into creature work when you've been doing only character stuff, or you want to do features when you've only done TV, there's ways to tailor your reel and your cover letter, and talk, network with people who are in those industries that you want to get into, so that you get a chance to do it. I kind of rambled there. Does that answer your question, or is that?
No, that's a good answer, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Sarsi asked, do you have any additional tips for smooth transition from being an animator to a lead role?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, are you a lead now and you just left an animator, or you want to do that?
And feel free to jump on webcam, Sarsi, if you have want to at some point. Wants to be a lead.
So
yeah.
You want to become a lead, because that's two different things. So, if you are in a lead position and you're new to the position, that's going to have different challenges than actually getting into it. I mean, sometimes the hardest part is once you've got the job, not getting it. But no, the way to prove yourself as a potential lead is by, first of all, being good at what you do, by having good communication skills, and by also, going above and beyond, by helping your teammates, by trying to give people feedback and stuff. Some people will be resistant to that, but it's up to you to navigate that, and you don't necessarily want to be pointing out going around the office and pointing out people's mistakes, but if you are offering advice to people who want it and are looking for ways to make your current leads or your current supervisor's job easier, then they'll say, okay, well, this is somebody I can rely on to do a good job, who once they are actually in the official position of lead, then they'll probably do a good job of it if they're doing a good job when they're not even given the role. And that can be doing things like testing rigs, or finding new tools. It could be helping other artists. It could be helping your supervisor. So there's a number of things you can do to get into that position, but developing your communication skills is a big one, because that's what the role is all about. That's what we've been talking about today. If you can't articulate your ideas, and you can't communicate with people in a way that is going to help them do their best work, then you shouldn't be a lead or a supervisor. So if you can develop those skills, and you can show an interest in helping people, then people are going to want to see you as a supervisor. They're going to want to see you as a lead.
Cool. Does anybody else have any last few questions? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. I do have one.
Let's get started.
Oh yeah, we're halfway. That's what I meant. Wrap it up for lunch, and then we'll come back. Yeah. I do have one last question. I guess it's one I ask everyone. Do you have any advice for people who are still trying to get into the industry? Essentially, if you met yourself before you're in the industry, and you were still putting together your demoreel and learning your courses, and is there any advice you would give yourself now, back then, 20 years ago?
I don't know. The way I got into animation wasn't a friend of mine was taking some courses. I was doing construction work at the time, and I was thinking about getting my carpenter's apprenticeship when, because I didn't think I could do art as a job. I thought it was something my starving artist uncle did, and I figured I'd never make a living doing what he did, because he enjoys his life, but he doesn't make a good salary doing it.
Mm.
So I thought it was more of a hobby than anything else. And it wasn't until a friend of mine showed me some courses that he was doing that I thought, oh, well, why not give this a try? And that's how I got into, I took part-time courses at night and slowly built up a portfolio. And no, I think what got me into the industry was just lots of hard work, and dumb luck as well. If I was never friends with Carl, I never would have discovered it. So yeah, I think it just boils down to hard work, and if you discover your weaknesses and work on compensating for those, and you there's a weird echo. If you work on getting good at what you do, then you'll get a shot at people will recognize that, and they'll see that in your work, and you'll be employed. So,
and that applies to because I know there's a few people here who are trying to get from TV and make the leap to film, and that applies to that leap as well. Is just putting in that extra time again, that effort, and just pushing through. Pushing.
Yeah, I think so. Just I mean, it all comes down to hard work. I mean, there's always somebody out there who's working a little bit harder than you are, and spending a little bit more time on the demo reel. And I mean, that's the great thing about animation and visual effects and the visual arts is that your resume is your demo reel. So you can go to Harvard and you could spend 5 years at the best art schools and have all kinds of diplomas and stuff, but none of that stuff counts if your demo reel looks bad. So that's the great thing I like about this is that the more effort you put into making a good demo reel and making sure that your work looks the best you can make it, then you can just show that to people and they know. It doesn't matter what school you go to. I think we all want everybody to go to Griffin, but if you go to some other school or you just learn on your own time and your work looks good, then people like me will want to work with you. So
yeah. That's a great answer. And I'm just gonna wrap it up then. Thanks everyone, and thanks Jeremy for taking the time to speak to everyone here, and thanks everyone for attending. That was pretty awesome. I'm gonna chuck this online later, and good luck everyone. We'll see you out there.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks. That was fun.
It was great. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks again, Jeremy.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
See you guys.
All right.